Well, we have to start by first and foremost giving some thanks to the person that made this possible. That was historian, author, and educator Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was so bold in 1926 that he was able to ask the President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge, is it possible that we, as Negroes, can celebrate ourselves, celebrate some of the things that we've done, celebrate where we've come from and where we are today and where we hope to be. And of course, 1926, that was granted. And it went from Negro History Week, which was in the month of February, which is the shortest month of the year, the coldest month of the year, as well as the darkest month of the year. But however, we were able to celebrate ourselves. And we've done from that time to this time, and it has grown to become a pretty special event. What we have to look at is slavery in America. If you want to look at it just like it was what, 247 years. If you go from 1619 to 1865, that's a long time. That was free labor. That was enough time to build for free the United States of America. For all practical purposes, that was done during slavery. Let's start with some of the things that we gave. People may think, maybe they think now that it's not a lot, but it's a whole lot. Everything that I'm gonna give to you, and I'm gonna start with a man by the name of Frederick Page out of Florida. Frederick um, invented and got the first patent on the airplane, 1904. We were taught in school that the Wright brothers invented the first airplane, got the patent in 1913 out of Kitty Hawk. At Kitty Hawk, that was in New York. But as we dig, we find that most of our history had been erased. Uh, the facts had been distorted, and we were lost in history, just lost. We were taught that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and in the research, I found that it was a kid actually by the name of Granville T. Wood who invented the telephone. The first telephone, his father actually sold it to Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell went to get the patent. He couldn't get the patent on the phone. And the reason he couldn't get the patent, because he didn't know what made the phone work. He did not have any blueprints, any sketches as to what was inside of it, how it worked, how he built it, what made him come up with it. And by this kid being born in 1856, no, they're not going to give a kid a patent. But eventually, he did get the patent to the telephone as well. He got the patent to the telephone. He got the patent to the telegraph system. He got the patent to the electric railway. He got the patent to the third rail. He got the patent even to what we all enjoy so much, roller coasters, electric roller coaster. Granville T. Wood was indeed one that you would call a genius. And then there was Elijah McCoy. I like Elijah McCoy because the name Real McCoy was attached to Elijah McCoy, and that's where that title comes from. I remember, again, as a kid, we were taught that the Real McCoys was this guy that Walter Brennan played in a movie. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. A movie, a moving picture, to me, is worth 1,000,000 words because we saw a face, we had a name, we had a landmass, and everything attached to this individual to say that he did all of these things. And when it was Elijah McCoy that invented the one most important thing, that was an oil cup. He was like, "What? An oil cup? Take the oil cup off your car and see if you can drive." And then there was Frederick Jones. Frederick Jones, he gave us the refrigerated automatic system for the trucks. And people say, "So what? So what? We can travel from California to New York with meat or produce on a truck and it didn't spoil." Very important. But at the same time, what was even more important is during World War II, a lot of the troops needed blood as well as fresh food. And that's how they got it to the troops, the blood that they needed on the combat fields and the combat areas, as well as fresh food. Garrett Morgan. I think he's one of the black inventors that we've heard a lot about, and that was not just the gas mask, which was very important, but also the three light stoplight. He did the two light and he did the three light stoplight. So you know that there's a caution. You got to wait just because the light's getting ready to turn green. Don't go out there. It appears that we gave to America the gift of modernization for what they gave us, which was freedom from chattel slavery. Chattel slavery being we were able to be sold from one person to another to do free labor. And we got past that. So let's talk about Dr. Gladys West. Um, she was the inventor of GPS. Dr. James West, he invented the electric microphone. Just think what we couldn't do without a microphone. Today, going back to Gladys West, what would you do without GPS? We know how to get to where we have to go. We have to understand that we have probably invented some of the greatest of modern times, if not modernization itself. Blacks were able to invent these items and more or less give them to the world. Security systems. Mary Van Britten Brown, she invented the home security system, and the way that story went is that this was out of necessity, and she was able to figure out how to put all the things together to before ADT. I should call it MVBB. It was for Mary Van Britten Brown. Think about the stories we've been told. While we've been told these stories, there's a period of time in our life, and this period I saw myself. It's called the Civil Rights Movement. I kind of enjoyed the Civil Rights Movement uh, because in the end, some things did happen that we saw. But it's amazing that those things are now leaving. But just to talk a little bit about the Civil Rights Movement, and I will go back to uh, inventors and inventions because that too is very important. You need to know certain things. The Civil Rights Movement actually started December 1st, 1955. I always keep that date, and I tell people about that date because that was the day that Rosa Parks refused to give a seat up to a white man on the bus in Alabama. And that was the day that James Bevel and the other members of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference uh, called Martin Luther King to be their voice, not necessarily to be their leader, but they were very impressed with his ability to speak and how he spoke, his cadence, and everything about him. It was really amazing. So now, December 1st, 1955, Martin Luther King comes on the scene. Martin Luther King, just for everybody's just listening, he had a 13-year run with the Civil Rights Movement. That's what we had from 1955 to 1968. Out of Martin Luther King's 13-year run, he had one victory. One. That was the Alabama bus boycott. He was able to shut down that bus company that would not allow blacks to sit anywhere they wanted to on the bus. And all he did was boycott it. We're not going to ride your bus. We'll walk to work. We'll do whatever we have to do, ride a bicycle, but we're not going to ride your bus, and not having any money coming in for the bus. And then obviously the blacks that rode those buses obviously was the main source of that bus company staying in business. And it was able to put that company out of business. That was the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement. It appeared that in 1960, a president had come on the scene that black people really thought would be great for them, which was John F. Kennedy. If not great, he would do things that will ease some of the pressure that white society put on blacks. There would be laws that we would have to we all would have to respect. And when it came to black people, white people would have to respect these laws. He got in office in 1960, John F. Kennedy. 1963, John F. Kennedy, in front of the whole world on television, he was assassinated. The civil rights movement, it's gone, but what's going to happen with it? Well, a Southerner became the president at that time, and that was the vice president. That was Lyndon Johnson. What he did, 1964, he gave us the Civil Rights Bill. For the first time in the history of America, we had rights that had to be respected. Attached to the Civil Rights Bill was affirmative action. Oh, those were things that we would get from that, whether it was jobs, uh, more opportunities, and so many more things. That was great. 1965, for the first time in the history of America, there was a Voters' Rights Act that was passed. Now we can vote. We now can go and vote. And to vote is a voice. That's your voice. But as we move on, finally in 1970, 5 years after all of that, a lot went down with all those deaths and the civil rights movement steady trying to uh, continue with its momentum. But prior to 1970, and that was when the Fair Housing Act or Fair Housing Bill was passed. For the first time in the history of America, we were allowed to get a mortgage from a bank to buy a home. It was illegal for a bank to give us a loan to buy a house prior to 1970. But there was something else that the civil rights movement got us. It was the Title IX education bill. For the first time in the history of the world, or of America, I should say, we were allowed to go to any school, public and or private, without being discriminated against. So now we can get education the same as others. Uh, but I think just by getting that bill, it was good. But a lot of the HBCUs, I do believe, from that day to this day, have suffered. Um, and we were able to get that education. So that did a lot for blacks. That helped us to start our move towards a better life, towards getting a piece of the so-called uh, American pie, a piece of America, the American dream. In 1934, General Motors was about to close up Cadillac because Cadillacs weren't selling. And they can't keep making them and they're not going to sell. All of a sudden, black people start buying Cadillacs. And in some cases, they were selling them, of course, over uh, the price, the cost, the actual cost of the car. We were paying 3 to 5, maybe even 10% more than what it was worth or the cost. For all practical purposes, we saved Cadillac. And a question was asked back then in 34, where are they getting the money from? You got to realize if a bank wouldn't give us a loan to buy a house, we had money. We couldn't put our money in their banks. Where was our money? It was at home, in the shoebox, in a bag, under the bed. We had enough money to buy cars like that cash. And we saved Cadillac. And now a question that I had as a kid and as a young adult, man, why is black people, as soon as they get some money, they go buy a Cadillac? A Cadillac is America's #1 car, first and foremost. And a Cadillac is the company that we say. As I was speaking on so many different uh, inventors and inventions, I want to go back to that because we don't give thanks to somebody like, we don't give thanks to Patricia Bath, who actually came up with what's that, LASIK eye surgery. It's Percy Julian. I mean, think Percy Julian. He invented cortisone. Not only cortisone, he invented birth control pills. But the key is, he invented steroids. Man, what would the athletes be today? Where would a lot of people be with different diseases, or this sinus issues, or other pains without these particular uh, things that Percy Julian uh, had invented? And again, we don't give a lot of credit for that. We don't hear it. Our kids don't hear it. And I believe in all my heart, if we taught our children about all the things that we've done, and what we've endured, and we still came out like this on a regular basis. Not sometimes, not in February, every day, every day. If you have to teach the Constitution, then you should teach Black history every day. And today we hear about DEI. DEI did more for other people, or just as much for other people as it's done for us. We need to know and understand what DEI is. And in closing, I like to say, I like to thank everyone for listening. Hopefully, you enjoyed some of the information that I've given. Thank you.